Hey everyone, so I want to do this video where I'm just going to talk for a while. I said I would do more content like this. I kind of did it with like my incel video where I just kind of talked for a really long time. I don't know if I'll split this one into multiple parts, we'll see. I want to first very quickly just mention that I'm changing the name of the podcast one last time. This is going to be the last time I change the name of the podcast. I know I've done it before. This is going to be the last time. I'm going to change it to just the Veritas podcast. The reason is basically just because Red Pill Nation, I felt like the name implied too heavily that I was like right-wing, MGTOW, men's rights, whatever, which I'm not totally opposed to, but I'm also not like, that's not really what I am. I want to rename the podcast and just start doing stuff on this channel that might, I don't know, kind of be more interesting, less of just kind of your typical like Tim Pool, Dave Rubin, like I'm just gonna do this stuff that is at least perceived as like right wing or whatever. So another thing I'm gonna do today after making that brief little announcement is something that I feel like I haven't done a good enough job of on this channel, and that's making sure that my problems with the right are understood and are at least out there, like on my channel. I feel like I've done kind of a shitty job of talking about my problems with the right, of criticizing the right. And it's not because I feel like the right is just as bad or just as damaging to our society as the left. I think the left is worse because they're much more powerful at this moment. But I don't know. I think if you looked at my channel and you just looked at the content that's there right now, you might get the idea that I'm just like this right-wing guy who's never going to be critical of the right. And I hate that. Like, I hate being perceived that way. I also hate seeing people do that. It's kind of made me lose interest in people like Tim Pool and Dave Rubin recently that I used to respect, even like James Lindsay, all these other people. So today's just going to be a big, long stream of consciousness video where I'm going to talk about my gripes with different aspects of the right, whether it be, you know, the online right, the establishment right, the populist right, whatever. I'm just going to talk about right-wing kind of factions and ideas and just kind of go through one by one all my issues with them. I just kind of want there to be a record of like my problems with the right. And I want to continue to make that a theme of my content, that like I don't think that just because the left is the biggest threat to cultural stability, prosperity, and peace at the moment in the West, that the right doesn't have its issues. It really, really does. Like, it really, really does. I'm just going to get started. The first thing I want to say is, if you come to this channel because you are like a MAGA Trump Republican who just loves Donald Trump and thinks like whatever he does, whether he runs in 2024 or whatever he does, it's just golden and it's amazing because he's an amazing person, you are so in the wrong place. I have said on my podcast before that I think Donald Trump is a moron. I think he was not at all qualified or emotionally and intellectually capable of being president. And I have maintained that over the course of 4 years in a way that other people haven't. I'm shocked that Tim Pool, Dave Rubin, and James Lindsay all support Donald Trump. Not because they support him, period, but because they do so as enthusiastically as they do. That shocks me. Because my opinion on Donald Trump, which has evolved slightly, like when I was like a hardcore leftist, it was, oh, Trump is just like the worst thing ever, and he's, you know, gonna be the next demagogue dictator, whatever. I never went full-blown like Hitler comparisons, but I would sort of blow things out of proportion with Trump. I've evolved from that to just like kind of the Matt Taibbi position. If you guys know Matt Taibbi, it's that Trump isn't uniquely evil. He's only as evil as Nancy Pelosi or any other politician. But he's uniquely stupid. I mean, he's uniquely egotistical and narcissistic. Donald Trump, it's not that he, you know, it's like, I don't think he's capable of fascism is kind of my position. And I think I said this in my podcast with Bo Weingard. I hate Trump, and yet I don't feel as threatened by him, and I haven't talked about him that much on this channel. One, because it's boring, because everyone fucking talks about Trump all the time, and we're just starting to get a break from it, and it's really nice, actually. But the other reason I don't talk about him is because I don't feel threatened by him. Donald Trump is hated by every establishment group in America. Every institution that has any cultural relevance or power despises him, and he has no impact on them, on except to get them to hate him so actively. Like, he gets the media to just go on their Trump fucking thing. And I don't feel threatened by Trump because he's intellectually incapable of fascism. He's too stupid and narcissistic to do fascism. Like, if you want to do fascism the way that, like, Hitler did, at the very least you have to be able to, like, have relationships with other people. Hitler was a terrible human being. He was an awful, awful man, but he was charismatic in a very real way that got those people to follow him and got his lieutenants and officers to follow him. He was a horrible person, but he, at the very least, could, like, run his horrible, terrible, evil empire. Whereas Donald Trump is just incompetent. I mean, like, people have been quitting Donald. There's this revolving door in Donald Trump's cabinet where people were constantly resigning, constantly getting fired via tweet. And it's like, that's not how a good president functions. That's not how a smart, competent leader functions. It's also not how a fascist functions. So my opinion on Trump was always kind of agnostic, but I do want to say I think he's a fucking idiot. Like, he didn't accomplish anything. He was president for 4 years and he did fuck all. Like, he gave some tax cuts. That was nice, I guess. And he did judges. Great. He stuck by Kavanaugh. That was cool. He talked a little bit about critical race theory and stuff, but way too late. Too late. And he only did it because, you know, it was a ploy to get some populist energy behind his campaign. Donald Trump doesn't intellectually comprehend the culture war the way that, like, an intelligent person does. He's not a smart man. He had life completely handed to him by his father. It baffles me that the populist right that fucking hates, like, corporate America and, like, corporate fascism and, like, boomer selfishness and all this shit, they love Donald Trump despite the fact that he's the epitome of just, like, a powerful person who just grabbed more power and mishandled it because he's a fucking idiot with no actual talent. Like, and then people are like, oh, well, he's very charismatic and talented. Okay, he got a bunch of rubes to think that he was a culture warrior when he was a fucking used car salesman. Did you ever see Trump's speeches about the culture war? They were pathetic. They weren't good. Compare Donald Trump to Jordan Peterson. Compare Donald Trump to fucking Ben Shapiro. That's probably a better comparison to, like, a normal conservative who is, you know, Shapiro is like a normal conservative who's a little bit smarter and a little bit higher in verbal acuity. He's just a well-spoken dude. Donald Trump sucks. He's so fucking dumb, and I need that to be understood. I need that to be understood by people who are on this channel. If you like Trump and are a Trump voter and a fan of Trump, you can totally enjoy my content. You might enjoy a lot of my content because it's shitting on the left or whatever, because it's shitting on woke nonsense or whatever. But please just let me hate him because I do, because he fucked everything up. Things got so much worse after Trump was elected. His toxic brand became associated with anything anti-woke, right? Like, I constantly had to be lumped in with Trump as somebody who was against political correctness and wokeness because he was considered the leader of the right. And of course, I'm lumped in with the right because I'm not on the left. And it's like, he made it so easy. Trump would constantly do these stupid fucking things and say these stupid fucking things that were so easy to use as propaganda for the left. Like, just stupid shit, like telling Ilhan Omar to basically, like, go back to Africa, which is like this stupid old racist trope that didn't make any fucking sense. And I remember having this conversation with someone where I was like, I honestly don't really know how to defend that. Like, other than to say that in that instance, it was true insofar that Ilhan Omar, if she's going to complain so much about the United States, she should go somewhere else. Like, that makes sense. But to tell her to, like, go back to her country of origin is at least vaguely racist. It's kind of a weird thing to... It's something that nobody under the age of 70 would ever, like, think to say. Trump is an old, dumb, not particularly racist person, but he has like standard like 70 plus year old dude racism, which is like not real. Like I don't view Trump as like this violent racist who fucking hates black people or anything like that. But he just like, I don't know, he has this subtle undercurrent of just like saying dumb shit like that, like go back to Africa, because Ilhan Omar is Somalian, I think. But you know, and he also, Donald Trump told Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, and Ayanna Presley to go to Africa, to like leave the country if they hated it so much, to go back to where they came from. And it's like, they're from America. It was just stupid. Donald Trump's dumb. Like I've held on to the opinion I had 4 years ago, which is that he's not smart and that he was a terrible leader. And if you think Donald Trump is like a great person, like I sort of separate Trump supporters into two categories. And this is why the Dave Rubin and Tim Pool and James Lindsay thing pisses me off so much. Because it's like, if you support Donald Trump and you at least admit his flaws and that he's not the optimal solution to wokeness, to leftist cultural dominance, to you know, whatever you want to call it, woke supremacy, if you at least admit that, then I can sort of get with you and understand where you're coming from, because I feel that way myself to an extent. Like, it was nice that Donald Trump at least wasn't woke. It was nice to have a president that wasn't woke. But he had a bunch of his own flaws. And the other category of Trump supporter that I have is people who just think he's amazing. People who think that his shit doesn't stink. I mean, it's unreal, because he's such an obviously flawed person. He's such an odd person. Nobody talks the way he does or is quite as narcissistic as he is. His narcissism, I know that the whole Trump is a narcissist, like armchair psychologist thing kind of became like a resistance meme, like circa 2016, 2017. And people were like, oh, everyone's playing armchair psychologist. No, he's totally a narcissist. That's not like a leftist thing. Like that's a judging a person based off of their actions and words thing. Trump is very clearly super narcissistic. Whether or not he meets some kind of clinical category for like having the psychological condition of narcissism, I guess I don't know, because I'm not a psychologist, but he's very clearly super self-centered, and he's unable to think of the world in a way where it doesn't orbit around him. He's unable to conceptualize anything that he is doing without immediately putting himself first. He can't have relationships with other people. Just Trump was a disaster for this country because he fueled the woke takeover that took place from 2015 to now. It still hasn't stopped. And he did so by giving them a foil of just like, he's going to sort of represent anti-wokeness, anti-political correctness, the right, whatever. And he ended up doing so literally by becoming president, by becoming the leader of the right in this country, technically. And you know, even because spiritually the leader was somebody like Ben Shapiro or Jordan Peterson, but literally it was Donald Trump, right? And when he did that, he became this foil where it was like, okay, people think in terms of I'm on side A or side B. They can't really think. Most people aren't smart enough to really think any more nuanced than that. And so people thought either I'm with Trump or I'm with the left. And the left became progressively more woke. And so people thought, if I want to be against Trump, I have to go with all this woke shit. And that was a great marketing victory and a great marketing strategy for the left. And it wouldn't have been possible without Trump. Like, woke supremacy in 2021 made possible by Donald Trump. Like, I can't express enough how much I wish that like Marco Rubio had become president in 2016, or even Ted Cruz, who I also really don't like. I think he's like anti-charisma. I think Ted Cruz is the least charismatic person in Washington, who probably would have also really hurt the Republican Party. But at least he's not quite as dumb, and he doesn't say as many things that would have fueled the left. I'll put it this way. Even if Donald Trump isn't a racist, the fact that he said enough dumb shit and was enough of a piece of shit and enough of a narcissist and just kind of a bad person that people would believe it in 2017 when the media was saying like Donald Trump's a Nazi who supports white supremacy, the fact that it was even like a question in people's minds. Because what the answer should be when somebody says like that person who is our president is a Nazi, the answer should be like, well, obviously that's not true. And with Marco Rubio, it would have been pretty obvious that was not true. With Jeb Bush, it would have been pretty obvious that was not true. And yeah, they have their flaws. Like, they're not the bravest, most stalwart opponents of leftist cultural takeover in existence. But God, they wouldn't have given so much goddamn fuel to this thing. I mean, hell, I kind of defend my Clinton vote. I didn't vote for Joe Biden, but I did vote for Hillary Clinton in 2016, and I still kind of defend that vote. I feel like we wouldn't be in as bad of a position, because people would say like, oh, well, then none of the things that Trump accomplished for the right would have happened if Hillary Clinton was president. And it's like, Donald Trump barely accomplished anything for the right. Hillary Clinton would have floundered, been incredibly unpopular, and probably lost in 2020 to fucking, I don't know, Ron DeSantis or Marco Rubio or whoever. And we'd be better off if there was an unpopular Democrat leaving office instead of Donald Trump. And now this whole thing about how everyone on the right is a terrorist because Donald Trump played up this bullshit that caused there to be a fucking riot at the Capitol, which of course is only so far removed from a coup that the media made it sound like there was a coup. I can't believe people think Donald Trump was good for the right. That astonishes me, that people are like grateful to Donald Trump for being the only, Republican president of the last, I guess like 12 years or so. He was a disaster. He's a fucking idiot. It's so obvious just by listening to Trump and looking at him do literally anything that he's not smart. And not only is he not smart, he's a shitty person. Okay? He cheated on his wife with a porn star. He's not a good guy. He's mean. He's just a shitty, mean, narcissistic dude. And yeah, I love the idea of having somebody who's capable of being a little mean and a little bit, I guess, brave, kind of like sticking to their guns. Like all the memes about why Trump was good, I get. But there's a much more sophisticated version of that in someone like Ben Shapiro, literally anyone else who is just not as stupid and narcissistic. That's enough about Trump. So fuck Trump. And to some extent, fuck the people who just are in Trump's little cult where everything he does is gold. Fuck those people. You can support Trump and be a fan of mine, and that's fine, but you have to at least admit that he wasn't the optimal solution to what was going on. If you think Trump is like the greatest thing since sliced bread, this is not the channel for you. I want to talk about the populist right as well, which is kind of connected to Trump. I get so frustrated with the populist right because they'll talk a little bit about demographic change and like immigration, and like that's fine. I'm curious about that too, how that's impacting people psychologically, how it's impacting our economy. It's like, I don't think it should be that completely taboo topic. You can't talk about like a town that was 80% white becoming 80% Latino over the course of like 15 years, which is not that long for that big of a change to take place. I think it's a perfectly legitimate topic of discussion. But why, when that topic comes up, or like race and IQ, any of this shit that is interesting and I think worth chatting about in like a nuanced way, the populist right always takes it and just like immediately becomes about like the Jews, the fucking and like just racism just immediately becomes a part of it. Like immediately. Like Nick Fuentes is the creepiest little loser. Nick Fuentes sucks. Because I love the idea of some how old is Nick Fuentes? Like 22? I love the idea of some fucking like 22-year-old white kid, or it doesn't have to be a white kid, just some 22-year-old kid. Can be any race. Just doing this like, I'm a young dude in my fucking basement doing a show where I talk about like populist, anti-authoritarian, anti-left shit. Sort of populist right leader that is like about Nick Fuentes' age and is as confident as he is. I like that idea. But Nick Fuentes just immediately got into like Holocaust denialism. And then whenever he's asked to correct it, he's very weird about it. And then just like Nick Fuentes getting in, I think, didn't he imply that he was against interracial marriage? Just shit that it's like, why? You can be anti-woke and populist and right-wing or like, I don't know, just pro-Western civilization without going for these just dead issues. Like interracial relationships, it's like, why be against that? Like, fuck. Is it Mike Cernovich is like married to a non-white woman? Like even he understands. Like, I hate how the populist right, like I always kind of delve into it a little bit, and I just immediately learn that whatever faction or group or person from the populist right I'm interested in, there's some weird racist aspect, and the Jews are brought into it so much, and you can tell by looking at me. I'm ethnically Jewish. I'm not religious. I don't wear kippah like Ben Shapiro or anything, but I am technically Jewish, I guess, and so yeah, it does bother me when I'm like listening to somebody and then they bring up like the Jewish question. I love that. They're like, I remember somebody was making fun of Jordan Peterson because he was asked about the Jewish question at an event by some like Owen Benjamin, Nick Fuentes loser, whatever, who goes to a Jordan Peterson event and asks him like, why do Jews run the world? Like you have so many things you can ask Jordan Peterson, who's a very wise person. And you ask him like, the Jews, Jordan. Dr. Peterson, what about the Jews? Like somebody asked Jordan Peterson this at an event who I assume is associated with like the populist right, Nick Fuentes, Owen Benjamin, whatever. And look, I know there's aspects of the populist right. Like I know that like Bo Weingart, who I actually really like and who I've had on my show, is kind of a populist right guy. I think maybe I'm getting him confused with someone else or someone I like who I think might be Bo Weingart, who is kind of a populist right dude. And so they're not all like racist or anything. But the story about Jordan Peterson is hilarious. Look up Jordan Peterson gets asked the Jewish question on YouTube. Someone tried to frame this video of Jordan Peterson being asked the Jewish question, which is basically why did Jews run the world? Like just total fucking lizard people conspiracy theory nonsense. Because by the way, if Jews run the world, I haven't gotten that invitation yet. I'm pretty low on like the cultural power ladder, and I am Jewish, so it's like living proof that's not necessarily true. But somebody asks him it, and he doesn't answer it because he's not a fucking moron, and he knows that he tries. Like to Jordan Peterson's credit, if you watch the video, he's like, oh well, how do I oh God, how do I answer this? I guess I'm sorry, I can't. Like eventually he's just like I fucking can't do. Dude, like what? Because the person asks the question and everyone's just like, oh fuck. Like everyone in the audience is like, God damn it, dude. Like why? Because Jordan Peterson's under so much scrutiny. He gets asked basically like, tell me why the Jews are scary and control everything. But it's a fucking kid. And Jordan Peterson's like, he genuinely tries to think of a way to answer it without coming off as like a raging anti-Semite, and he can't do it. Because he's like a nice, smart man who knows what's good for him and doesn't want to fucking get caught up in that shit. And the fact that he even tried to answer it is just a testament to Jordan Peterson's character, that he just wanted to answer this person's question, even though it was like the dumbest question in the world. Literally the dumbest question. Like that's the dumbest question to ask someone at an event. Because who the fuck is going to answer that? Jordan Peterson wouldn't even answer it. Fuck. So stupid, the Jewish conspiracy theory shit. Anyway, all of this is to say that video is hilarious because it's titled like Jordan Peterson refuses to answer this question. And it's like, good for him. Good for him. Like, I think you should answer almost any question that's asked of you if you're a serious thinker, but I do think there are exceptions. And tell me about the scary Jews is definitely an exception. Fuck, that was so funny. Look up that video. It's amazing. But anyway, all of this is to say the populist right, I love the idea of like left-wing, it's kind of like populist energy, like the energy that there was for Bernie Sanders on the right, and you saw that with Trump to an extent, but it was in Trump's case, it was a cult of personality around a man. Like, it was all about this guy. It wasn't really about ideas. Like, you could do the Jimmy Kimmel thing where you walk up to people who are Trump voters. He probably did this. You could do the Jimmy Kimmel thing where you walk up to people who are Trump voters. Do this on late night shows all the time, and you tell them like one of Obama's policies, but you say that Trump did it. So you describe like Obamacare, but you say that Trump is the sponsor of the bill, and they'll just be like, yeah, I fucking love that. Like it was the Trump thing was populist, sort of, but it was really just a cult of personality. They all just loved this shitty person who was very obviously terrible if you're an even remotely good judge of character, which I like to think that I am. And I've had a lot of evidence in my life that I'm a pretty good judge of character. I have a tendency to kind of like drop people at certain times from my life when I realize that they're a shitty person who is becoming worse and will never be a better person. Kind of like Trump. And I have a tendency of also recognizing good people in my life that I should keep close to myself. I consider myself a very good judge of character. And I feel like the evidence from the way that my life is now with the people I've surrounded myself with and not surrounded myself with supports that. Because I know it's kind of egotistical for me to be like, I'm such a great judge of character and Trump voters are bad judges of character. But I don't know, it's my fucking channel. I'll be egotistical if I want to. Fuck you. So anyway, fuck Trump. To some extent, fuck the populist right. At least the factions in the populist right, like the fucking Groypers, great name by the way, who just go into racist shit. Like racism is like the third thing on like their list of things to do. It's like, okay, we're gonna stop demographic change, and it's already like, if you read that, you're gonna get a little uncomfortable, right? And then it's like, also no interracial marriage, and it's like, okay, I don't support. Like I can't. Sorry, Nick Fuentes, who is like the creepiest loser ever. I watched his show for like 5 minutes when he first started becoming a thing, and I was like, this guy sucks. This guy's worse than Trump. This guy blows. Because the idea of it, I remember hearing there was like this young dude doing like populist shit against woke supremacy, and I was like, oh, cool. Maybe this is the guy. And he's so not the guy. Nick Fuentes is still on Twitter, by the way, which fascinates me. Because they ban people from Twitter for a lot less than things that Nick Fuentes has done. It's very weird. My theory is that they keep people like Nick Fuentes and Richard Spencer on Twitter. I think Richard Spencer is still on there. Because it's just advertising for the left. It's like, do you want to be like this, loser? Anyway. So yeah, the populist right, they fall into racist shit and the Jew stuff pretty consistently. Like it's either there pretty blatantly or it ends up being an undercurrent where like immediately I read that like this populist right podcast like regularly has on people where even if the host isn't like super into the Jews stuff, he has somebody on who has talked about the Jews. Remember Owen Benjamin eventually got so over the top anti-Semitic. Owen Benjamin really thinks the Jews are up to something. And it cracks me up as a Jewish guy. Do you guys remember Owen Benjamin? He was like a normal, smart guy who just slowly lost his mind after just kind of losing everything, getting canceled. It's really sad. Like he became the thing that he was accused of being. It's very weird what happened to Owen Benjamin. It's kind of fascinating what happened to Owen Benjamin. He was actually a perfectly normal guy who just didn't think that children should be put on hormone blockers. And he went on Joe Rogan 3 times to talk about that and other stuff and comedy and stuff. He was like funny too. Owen Benjamin was like a funny comedian. And eventually just went so deep into the populist right, eventually just straight up like alt-right rabbit hole of just like racist shit and the Jews, the scary Jews. I'm very scary. You can see that I clearly control the world from my office here, which has a cat tower and a Legion of Skanks poster and a Zelda poster in it. That's the decorations for my Jew hut where I control the world. I want to do a whole thing about the Jewish conspiracies. They're very funny to me, and they are kind of a, you know what, they're not a uniquely right-wing thing, right? Even the left, like, if you go far enough to the left, they hate the Jews also because they hate Israel so much that it kind of like spills into anti-Semitism. Because, you know, Israel is the Jewish state. Anti-Semitism is so funny to me. Not because it's horrible, it's awful, but it makes me laugh because I am Jewish. And there's just something about somebody claiming that I'm a part of a group of people that controls the world when I very obviously don't. Like, I really, really don't, guys. I don't have that much power. I didn't get a card in the mail like fucking Harry Potter inviting me to go to Jewish Hogwarts when I was 11 where they teach you how to like control the banks. That didn't happen, guys. I'm here talking to you on my channel with 1,700 subscribers. Grateful for all of you, but you know, like I'm not a particularly powerful guy despite the fact that I'm Jewish. I just think it's so funny. God, the Jewish thing. You know what? That's a good litmus test for me of how to know that I don't want to talk to somebody on the right. Like on the left, it's if they say that like white people can't be racist, abolish the police, there's 70 genders. I'm like, I don't want to talk to that person. Pronouns in bio. Great litmus test. I'm like, I don't want to talk to that person on the left. But on the right, it's the Jews. If they bring up the fucking Jews, I'm like, you can joke about it. That's great. You can tell jokes, but if you're not joking and you bring up the Jews, I'm like, nope, I don't want to talk to you. You're an idiot. I don't want to talk to you. You're a fucking creep. I had a dude go up to me once in, I can't say the name of the city because it'll give something away. But I was in a major city once doing, I was in college and I was doing an internship and I was sign waving for a political candidate for a Democrat because I was a Democrat at the time. And some dude just comes up to me because the candidate was Jewish. And he goes like, your fucking candidate kills babies. He's a fucking Jew kike bastard. And I just remember being like, I had, I actually kind of almost thought it was funny. Like when I thought back on it, because anti-Semitism, there's no like mild version of it. Like I was talking about how I view Trump as kind of like a mild racist, where like I don't really think he's like really racist. I think he just kind of has like some antiquated views and like says dumb things. There's no version of that with people who hate Jews. Like that's either you don't hate the Jews or you fucking despise them and think that they kill babies and control the world. So weird. I just, and every time I look into shit on the right, I will sometimes find myself finding someone who sounds kind of cool at first, and then I learn they've got this thing with the Jews, and I'm just like, fuck, dude, like you're fucking crazy. And then, yeah, the racial realism stuff. Like, Stefan Molyneux, at one point, he started just saying, like, hey, I went to Poland, and it's all white people, and it's a better country for it. And I was just like, dude, stop. Stop doing that. Like, why? Like, that's not going to... We're not going to... Like, even if it did work to just have a country be whiter to make it better, we're just too far past the point of making that happen. Like, people are allergic to even the slightest hint of racism, let alone something that I do genuinely believe is racist. I don't support the whole, like, the whiter the better thing with the countries. With people like Stefan Molyneux and Gavin McInnes who imply with a lot of their commentary, and these are populist right figures, right? Stefan Molyneux, Gavin McInnes, who imply with their commentary that a country is better if it's whiter. There's going to be less crime and stuff. And it's like, that is kind of racist by definition, right? Just saying that, like, a country... I mean, again, it's not racist to just talk about the facts. Like, okay, here's a country with a higher proportion of whites and less crime. Okay, that's not racist. But at a certain point, when it's like enough of your whole talking points is just like, I want the country to be whiter. I don't know. It's a delicate tightrope to walk, because I think it's legitimate to talk about massive, super fast demographic change and how that impacts people psychologically, how that impacts a culture. I think that's fine, and I think that it's just something that needs a little bit of tact. I like Bo Weingart. I know that he talks about demographic change, and he talks about race and IQ, but he does it in a way that has like a little bit of fucking tact, and that's why I wanted to have someone like him on my show. And, you know, maybe I'll ask him about that stuff next time. I kind of avoided it the first time I talked to him, but I want to have Bo back on my show, because Bo Weingart is, I think, a good example of somebody who has like this populist streak, I feel like, where he wants to talk about these cultural issues, but he doesn't go super deep into like the Jewish conspiracies and stuff. So the populist right pisses me off. The establishment right is fucking useless. The establishment right is so bad at opposing the left in any meaningful or even remotely effective way. It astounds me. I could do 3 hours of commentary on how bad Republicans are at fighting Democrats and being a political party. I cannot believe, like, first off, if you're Republicans, you need to recognize when you have someone who's just not good for you. Like, they're a leader in your party and they just shouldn't be. Case in point, Ted Cruz. That man is the opposite of charisma. That man oozes losing energy that loses you elections. Like, if Ted Cruz had been the nominee in 2016, he probably would have lost to Hillary Clinton. He might have been a worse candidate than Donald Trump. At least Donald Trump was kind of like you couldn't take your eyes off him because he's so bombastic. Ted Cruz is like the nerdy guy from high school that wasn't even endearing. He was just a total dick. That man, can't... How did he even become a senator? He's going to lose his next election, by the way. Ted Cruz is up for re-election in 2024. He is not going to win that Senate seat. If there's an even remotely competent Democratic candidate like Beto O'Rourke runs again or whatever, Ted Cruz will lose. But I just hate how Republicans lift up people that aren't good for them, like Ted Cruz or like Donald Trump. Fuck. Donald Trump was so bad for the Republican Party. He was a disaster for them. So, yeah, and then Republicans also in the media world, they're just lifting up. Like, the only Republican talking head that is, like, interesting at all is Tucker Carlson. And I guess Ben Shapiro, but Ben Shapiro's not on cable. The cable news guys are awful. Bill O'Reilly was always an idiot. Sean Hannity is a moron. Fucking Mark Levin. All these guys are such losers who have no nuance in any of their discussions of anything. Like, at least Tucker and Ben will occasionally, like, surprise people. And I feel like these people represent the Republican establishment to an extent. And it's just the Republican establishment also, like, won't make up its mind on Trump. Like, they'll say that they want to distance themselves from him, especially after the riot at the Capitol. But then, like, I saw a fundraising email that the Republicans sent out where it was like renew your support for the Republican Congressional Committee or we'll tell Daddy Trump that you've been a bad, bad boy. It was basically that. This was the fundraising email. It was like, we'll tell Trump if you don't give us money to reelect Republicans. And it's like, this man isn't even president anymore. He's not the leader of your party. And also, that is so weird. What is the implication? Is the implication that Trump will, like, knock down your door and kick your ass if you don't give money to Republicans? Does that work? Is there a person who reads that email and goes like, oh no, I don't want Trump to know I don't support Republicans. Oh no. Daddy Trump. This is why I can't stand Trump people, because that email probably worked on like 10 people. And those 10 people, there's just nothing left. Their brains have turned to mush. They joined a personality cult and they never got out of it. The establishment Republican leadership is so fucking dumb. Mitch McConnell. Why? I mean, I guess Mitch McConnell, at least I see so insofar that he's a smart dude and he's good at being a senator. Like, he's a good parliamentarian. He knows how to kind of like get stuff done. So I guess I'll give Mitch McConnell a pass. But again, can we have someone who has the good parts of Mitch McConnell and not the shitty parts? Where like he's so bad for optics? Because optics do matter. Sorry. The establishment Republicans, it's like, you guys are the people in D.C. Like, you guys, the optics has to matter. So like Ted Cruz isn't allowed anywhere near like CPAC or anything like that if I'm running the RNC. Ugh. They're so useless. They lost the fucking Georgia runoffs that they were totally going to win. Runoffs in Georgia are typically not very hospitable to Democrats. And they lost because establishment Republicans just, they couldn't get it done. All they should have done was gone with Trump. Trump was finally right about something, the stimulus checks. And the Republicans lost everything. The stimulus checks ended up happening anyway, and they lost the Senate. Because Mitch McConnell was like, no, I will not give people free money. I don't see how that's going to help us. It's like your president said something incredibly popular that ended up happening anyway, and you refuse to support it, to just give people fucking money that they do need. So basically, Trump's a moron. He's a narcissist. Populist Republicans can be cool, but they also can be truly racist and like horrifically anti-Semitic. And then you got the establishment Republicans that are just fucking useless. They're useless. They didn't do anything to rein in big tech. They talk about it. Ted Cruz always talks about big tech and proposes bills that he knows aren't going to get fucking passed. I would respect Ted Cruz if he went into Mitch McConnell's office and was like, if we don't take the last few months of our term as the majority in the Senate to fucking do something about big tech, we'll lose our democracy and I will fucking resign. That's how you get me to respect someone like Ted Cruz or Josh Hawley. Not by them playing up the fucking election fraud conspiracies, because they want to run in 2024. Fuck them. Fucking do something. Put something on the line. I would respect, and I think a lot of people would respect, somebody who resigned, who just said, fuck this. If we're not going to do our jobs, which is recognize when there is a threat to this fucking country, which right now, the legacy media is destroying this country. Big tech is destroying this country. Colleges run a fucking muck, which public colleges are, to some extent, they're liable. They have to answer to the government. Nobody did anything about this. And people talked about it. Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz will tweet about it. Donald Trump would tweet about it. but nobody fucking did anything. They had the one executive order to get rid of critical race theory like 2 months before the election. After critical race theory just destroyed this country when it was like far too late. The second that these blatantly racist ideas started getting into our schools and our workplaces, it should have been rooted out because it was so obviously going to turn into what it's turned into, which is just racism. I know people have talked about like neo-racism. Let's just call it racism. Anti-whiteness just means hating white people. Okay? They went from saying they're against white supremacy, which in theory is a good thing, like, right? White supremacy is bad. It's racism, whatever. To just saying they're anti-whiteness. And it's like they're so close to just saying what they really believe, which is that they fucking hate white people. And they want to disempower white people and flip the reins of oppression. But yeah, the right, this whole thing is just me laying out that, like, I'm not right-wing. I'm not left-wing. I'm not right-wing. I am a guy who hates I'm a guy who hates ideological possession, who hates ideology as it is currently used as a way to just give everyone like a chart that they can refer to for every fucking position they have on every current event, every issue. They're like, oh, well, I'm right-wing, so I check this box. I'm left-wing, so I have to this one. Or I'm libertarian is another one. Libertarian people are just like, oh, yeah, the libertarian position is this, so let me just check that box. It's like the cop thing is a great example. People on the left and libertarians are always like, fuck the cops. People on the right are always like, the cops can do no wrong. The cops can do wrong and also can act completely justifiably. Literally every single situation is totally fucking different. I hate it. That's a running thing on this channel is if you just have an ideology that you use as your fucking bingo card, like your little thing that you look at and you go, I just got to make sure I get every single one right. Like right wing, left wing, libertarian. And you never switch which fucking bubble you fill out ever based on the circumstances of the actual issue or event. Fuck you. Don't watch my content. Leave me the fuck alone. Like, I will lose subscribers for this video, I almost guarantee, and I just don't care. I just don't care. I lost subscribers when I talked about Trump and his bullshit in one of my podcasts, and I was like, I don't give a shit. He's a fucking moron. And the election fraud stuff was so bad. It went on for so long. He just kept going. Donald Trump literally got to a point where he was like, abracadabra, Mike Pence, make the fucking electoral college disappear. And then Mike Pence was like, I can't do that. What the fuck are you talking about? I'm the vice president. I can't, what? And then Donald Trump kept going until there was a fucking riot at the Capitol. I was against that, by the way. I was against attacking the fucking Capitol building and getting some lady killed. I was against that. And that was too much for some of the fucking orange man good Trump sycophants. Fuck you if you're just one of these fucking right-wingers who has no... You're just like the left. You're just like a woke person, but the opposite. There's orange man bad and there's orange man good. And I'm not orange man bad. I think Trump did some good things, but I don't know. This is just a man. You're looking at a man who's frustrated, man. I'm frustrated. I'm pissed off because I have to deal with... let me be really straight with you guys for a minute. On the internet, if you want to make it as a political commentator, it seems like you really do have to like pick a side and stick with it. And I can't do it, man. I can't do it. I haven't even, like, some people would say, like, well, isn't that what you were kind of trying to do with this channel? Is like, it was like mostly stuff that would appeal to the right. And it's like, there was content I would have made if I was doing it that I didn't make. I would just do what Tim Pool does and just read, the catnip for the right wing fucking red meat news stories every day. I would just do what Dave Rubin does. Sorry, there's a siren. Okay, fucking siren outside my window. I would just do what Tim Pool and Dave Rubin and to some extent James Lindsay are doing if I wanted to just have more Twitter followers and shit and subscribers. And it's frustrating because so many of you out there who could potentially be in my audience probably won't, because I don't just build up this reputation as like, oh yeah, if you're on the right, he's a good follow. If you're on the left, he's a good follow. It's like, fuck you. I don't want to do that. It's boring. It bores the shit out of me to talk to people and to be associated with people and to be a part of any group that is just like, you must be purely 100% with us or you're purely 100% against us. So this is my manifesto of like, I don't like the right either. And if the right were acting like the left was, if they were in power culturally, and maybe if they were, they'd do the same fucking shit. If the right were in power doing the same thing the left does, I would treat it the same way. I'd fight back against it. And I don't think that there's a lot of people that would necessarily do that. I think some people would just be like, oh yes, now we get to be in control. These sirens will not stop. They might not even be coming up, by the way. I might just sound like an idiot who's talking about shit that you can't hear. Depending on the quality of this microphone, you might not be able to hear the sirens outside my window. Sorry about that. So yeah, this is a video I'm just doing largely because I want to. Like I want to start doing a lot more content where it's like it may not get me that many subscribers. It may even lose me subscribers, but I just want to do it. I just want to say certain things, and like if it offends you or it bothers you, go somewhere else or stay. Maybe you keep watching me even though I offend you or I bother you in some way, because at least you know I'm real. Like, at least you know that if you made a compelling argument to convince me that I'm wrong, that maybe I would listen. You put something in the comments, you make a response video, you reach out to me because maybe you want to be on my podcast. I'll actually fucking listen to you because I'm not just dedicated to being on the right or the left. And here's the proof, because people probably are going to guess looking at this channel like, here's a right-wing guy, here's a Trump guy. Nope. I'm not doing that. It's tempting, baby. Every day I think about it, I'm like, I'll just do what Tim Pool does. Worked for him. 1.3 million subscribers or something for Tim Pool. And his content changed a lot the past couple of years. You'll notice. Tim Pool, he's changed, man. He's changed. He thought Trump was going to win like 45 states. Oh my God. I like Tim Pool on some level, but like, holy shit. Is he sometimes just such a doofus? Maybe that's all I got. I guess that's about it. So, if you want to listen to someone who is just telling you what they think, who does pay attention to this stuff, and by the way, who recognizes, let me say unequivocally, the left is more of a threat than the right because the left has about 1,000 times more power culturally than the right does right now and is wielding it like a fucking cudgel, like a guillotine, to just destroy every little pocket of resistance and intellectual diversity in this country. It's bad. The right is not really a threat, but it doesn't mean the right can't be stupid as fuck and useless and just as bad as the left, but with less power to do bad with. And that's something that I need people to understand. If you're on this channel, I need this to be out there as like, I had Red Pill Nation and I'm changing it to the Veritas podcast because people associate the red pill with like the right. And it's like, no, you can red pill someone into leaving the far right. The red pill just means the truth, but I don't think people are smart enough to understand that about my show. So I'm changing the name to Veritas because Veritas actually means truth. That's why it's my name on here. Because I just want to talk about what I think is true and adjust what I think is true based on the information given to me. So this is a rant video, baby. This is a rant video, and I know it's a rant video. I know it is. I know it's a rant, but it's what I felt like doing today. I was sitting around thinking about this stuff, and I was like, why don't I put this on YouTube? Because it's important that people do what I'm doing. Where it's like, I refuse, it would be so easy given how much I do feel genuinely threatened by woke supremacy on the left and what it's been doing to this country for me to just pretend like it's the only bad thing in existence and talk about it and only it and never criticize anything else and never admit when maybe we got something wrong and maybe there's actually kind of a point to something going on the left. Really easy for me to do that and probably get more subscribers, but I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't. It would make me hate myself, and it would bore me, and it would just, I would not have the motivation to even make content ever on this channel. So if you want to come on this channel to talk to me, if you want to interact with me on here, please don't be one of these fucking people that's just I'm right 100% of the time or I'm left 100% of the time. I'm only interested in people who are at least like 99 to 1%. You know, have a little drop of free thinking in your head. Anyway, thanks for listening to me rant and rave for a while. If you're interested in someone like me talking about the things I talk about, subscribe. I appreciate it. And yeah, I appreciate everyone who listens to me rant like this. And I hope that people appreciate what I'm saying here. You may disagree with me. That's okay. But don't act like I'm just some idiot. The last time I did something like this, I shat on Trump and the right. People were like, you're a useful idiot for the leftists. And it's like, yeah, okay. Yeah, you look at my content and what I've been up to for several years now. And it's like, yeah, I'm a useful idiot for the left. Sure. So if you disagree with me, tell me why. If you agree with me, tell me why. I want to hear from you. And thanks for listening. I'll see you guys soon on the Veritas podcast, which is going to be the new name for my podcast. It'll be very similar to my previous podcast, and with some sketch videos and other things that I'm going to be doing on this channel. I will be making more content now. Moving took a ton of time. I moved recently, and it just took all my energy, and I didn't have the energy to make videos, but I'm all moved. I'm in my new studio/space, so I'm excited. And things are good in my life. I got a raise at work, which is super dandy. My girlfriend and I are getting along great, and I love my new apartment, and I'm going to make a bunch of YouTube content. I've got some guests lined up. I'm super psyched. So thanks. See you guys.